Thank you, and thank you to the panelists for being here. To the four gentlemen that are representing the various councils, thank you for what you do for the Commonwealth, your providers, and obviously the end users, the public. One question I have is, your testimony here today, was that approved by your respective councils? Are you speaking on behalf of your councils with the testimony today?
Yes.
A couple nods.
Absolutely.
2 yeses and 2 noes, okay.
I did not approach our council. I did it on my own.
Well, I'm just trying to determine whether it's the opinion of a council or an opinion of an individual, because I think that's important, and you guys provided a lot of information. Mr. McCoggan, your council is obviously the largest. Your population's, what, 2.6 million, maybe a little more? Or something?
Probably somewhere in that range, yes, sir.
All right. For the other 3 gentlemen, how large is the population within your councils?
I don't know off the top of my head. From Phillipsburg to Berwick, 120 miles in between, plus probably 60 miles north and south.
I'm sorry.
I'm guessing
I meant population. I'm sorry, I didn't mean geography. I meant population.
400,000 maybe?
I represent a specific EMS agency, not a regional council. We are part of EMS of Northeast PA, which you can see from your maps is a 7-county area. As far as rough population, I wouldn't have any idea.
Okay.
150,000
Okay.
for our Emco East area, roughly.
Okay. And is there a recognition amongst the 4 of you, there's a difference between the nonprofit regional councils that you either represent or are part of versus the county-based systems that you see in the Southeast? Like, it is an apple and an orange, though. I mean, they are operated differently. Okay. And I appreciate it. I'm not trying to interrogate you. I just think it's important that everybody fully understands what's going on here. For Director Gibbons, the MSOF fund, who administers that? Who develops the budget?
Our office.
Your office does? Okay. We heard the plan today unveiled of a 5-county southeastern council. Previous to that, the plan was for Bucks and Montgomery going into Eastern and Delco and Chester going into the Federation. What created that change that was unveiled here today?
Discussions with members of this committee and the feeling that perhaps it would be easier to keep all 5 of those counties in one pot, if you will,
Okay.
and a desire to move this forward.
Okay. And what's been the process for these consolidations and mergers in terms of communication?
Up to this
meetings?
point,
Yeah.
up to this point, they have been voluntary, either voluntary or I don't know about Bradford, Susquehanna, how much volunteerism there was there. I think it was just a decision on the Department of Health to not try to reestablish, because I wasn't here when that happened, to just not reestablish that office once there had been a loss of personnel in that office. And but the Southern Allegheny, or I'm sorry, Seven Mountains and Susquehanna was voluntary, basically. Now, I will tell you that I explained to them as I was leaving the position there, once I became the state director, because I had made the statement on the record publicly several times while I was still the director there, that I should not have a job, because it was just from a business perspective too tough to justify paying another executive director to manage that small region. EMCO East and EMSI has been completely voluntary. I don't think I speak out of turn there. It has been, they have fully embraced what we've said and what our goals are. They've heard as Chairman Barrar said, the comments about the fact that we recognize there's a bigger issue here as far as support for the improvement of the infrastructure and more funding. I have said for many years, both as a regional director and as a state director, we need to demonstrate that we're being good monitors and good stewards of the public money, if you will, and that we need to prove that we're operating as efficiently and as effectively as we can before we put our hand out and say we want more.
And to you two gentlemen, I commend your organizations or your councils for merging together and working together to develop that. I guess my next question is, we heard for the first time today about the 5-county merger in the southeast. Has that been conveyed to any of those 5 councils?
No, because I was waiting for this hearing.
But we did hear today also that there's a time frame for an RFP that's kind of on pretty short order without having any feedback from those 5 councils. Obviously, we're going to hear some from those councils today, but their testimonies very well may have been driven by the mergers with Eastern and the Federation as proposed. So some of the folks testifying, we can take that up when they testify,
Sure.
but they're going to be testifying based upon not having full information when they drafted that testimony. I guess my next question is, when was the last time you visited each of the 5 southeastern councils respectively? Roughly. I'm not holding you to dates and times, I'm just saying.
I was in Chester and Delaware, especially Chester, 3 times maybe before, as we were walking into this and as I met with their staff and I believe it was the president of their commissioners to outline the probability of this. So 2 to 3 times with Chester, and I had a couple phone calls with Delaware and then 1 in-person meeting with the executive from Delaware. I don't know when the last time was. I had not talked to Montgomery or Bucks about the merger because we were not there yet going with the original plan.
Okay. And you don't know when the last time you were in Bucks or Monco?
I was in Bucks the last time, or shortly within a year, I believe, after I was hired to go down and meet with their advisory council, I think it was.
Yeah, because as they reported to me, it was 2013. After the new regs came out, you met with them and held a town hall meeting.
Could very well have been.
Because I just think it's important that we're talking about merging operations, and I think it's pretty important that before decisions are made or proposed, 1, there's a degree of communication, but 2, there's actually eyes and ears to what is actually being done there. You weren't able to attend the meeting. I believe you had a family obligation, but there was a meeting in June with one of our county commissioners, and the deputy secretary was there, and the secretary was there, and there was a request made by our commissioner and our regional council to have you come down to Bucks County, and that was in June. There was a follow-up in August, and they were told in August the earliest date you had available on your calendar was February, which I find to be quite a length of time. And then there was some phone calls from some of the staff in your department on Thursday trying to get you to Bucks on Friday. But I have to say I'm very upset with this process. I think our folks are willing to talk. They're willing to have solutions, but there has to be conversations. It can't just be, I haven't been to your county and seen what your council's doing for 3 or 4 years. I have a significant problem with that. I also have a significant problem. They're hearing for the first time today that there's a proposal for a 5-county merger, and there's a time frame for an RFP. Maybe there's alternative solutions. Maybe there can be some voluntary mergers amongst some of the councils. I hear Delco and Chester are willing to merge together. They'll be able to testify to that themselves, but I hear they're willing to merge together. I know there was a letter from, and I don't represent Chester and I don't speak for them, but there was a letter from their commissioners that were very upset about the lack of communication with this process and essentially being told, hey, by the way, in whenever the date is, 2017, you guys will end up in the Federation. So I have a significant problem, and I think it's important the gentlemen that testified that represent other councils or serve with other councils know what the process has been. I don't think our folks are trying to be obstructionists. If there was some better communication, I think things would probably be proceeding a little differently. And what is proposed here today? In the reports from 2013, the average council size and population was 847,000 people. You have currently the largest council with 2.6 million roughly, so which is obviously significantly above that. What's being proposed today is a 4.5 million person size council. I realize population isn't the sole issue. For us, we're pretty congested where we are. For some of you folks, you're pretty rural where you are. And I obviously realize there's different needs. So for the folks that testified here today, if you can take back to your councils that there are some different perspectives going on, and I certainly hope Bucks County, if the shoe was on the other foot, Bucks County's council wouldn't be sitting here saying, hey, you folks need to merge together. Because I think there's other perspectives. But this process has been extremely flawed. And that's what my issue is. I know you're planning on coming down eventually. We're going to work on dates, and I look forward to that. But this process has to change in terms of where we are right now. And that's what my significant issue is. There's a lot of representatives from our EMS organizations here in Bucks County that took time away from serving our community. Our staffs are obviously covered, but they took the time to come up here, and later on I'm going to present some letters. But I think we all know, especially for those of us in the emergency services, our sister departments, our brother departments, we're like siblings. Some days we're getting along, some days we aren't. The fact that our folks are so united, and the flaws are, their issues are with the process. We have very successful things we're doing in Bucks County. You'll hear Dr. Ryder testify to that. But, Mr. Chairman, I think that's something that we need to have some further discussions on, is what this process has been. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond a little bit, and I'm not trying to be defensive. I just want to be clear that, and I thought I brought it out in the testimony. I have personally been working because when Director Schmieder originally put together the group to do the strategic planning, he asked me to be one of the co-facilitators for that process. That's when I first stood up and said I shouldn't have a job. We have been asking for every council to give us, if they had a voluntary proposal, to put one forth for at least 5 or 6 years. I will tell you that on my Outlook calendar today, still under the tasks, I can tell you one of the times that I went down to meet with, and I don't want to call out individual counties, but I went down and met with one of the southeastern counties, met with their regional, with their advisory council. And they asked me what the next steps were, and they asked for the opportunity to put together a plan and submit it to me. That plan was supposed to be to me on 5/1/15, and I will tell you that remains red under my task because I never received it. So I understand what you're saying. I would love to get to every regional council much more often than I did. In regards to the request for a meeting last year, my recollection of it was, not that it matters a lot, but it does change the priority. We were asked to come down and basically for a what I call kick the tires, see how things are going, listen to which is of tremendous value. But I know that the first time it was scheduled, there was a conflict. The second time, I think it was the deputy secretary got called into a meeting, or got tied up in a meeting with, or pulled into a meeting with the secretary. And then it did get into a very busy time of the year. And so given the look of my schedule and everything else, and with the deputy secretaries, I suggested that we push it off until January, February. If somebody told me, we want you to come down and talk about regional council consolidation, we need you down here today, I missed that in any conversation. I just want to be clear about that.
I can comment on that. And the deputy secretary sitting next to you, he was in the meeting. The reason we had the meeting with the secretary and the deputy secretary was because of the rumors of what the consolidation plan was going to be. And our request was, before something's moved forward, please come down to Bucks County and see what we're doing, see what we have to offer, and let's talk about it. And Ray, I don't know if you have a comment on that, but that was the tone I took from that meeting.
No, I can confirm that. And I'll also let you know that I appreciate the perspective that you are bringing here today, and also the fact that we, as a department, look forward to working with that entire area regarding both the potential voluntary consolidations that you mentioned, as well as the potential plan moving forward. I think there's a lot of things coming out today, and I think that we're all better off for this communication. But thank you.